Would you like to support Cubs Out Loud? One way is to join us over on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, patrons get early access to our shows, the pre- and post-show, and various other rewards. You can learn more at patreon.com/CubsOutLoud. Thanks to all our patrons for their support in making this podcast. It's Sunday, January 18th, 2026. I'm Jeff.
Who's your bear? That's right. I am your bear.
I'm Damon.
I don't brew the tea, I just serve it.
That makes me Gary.
Everyone else is thinking it, and I just say it.
Welcome to Cubs Out Loud, the Bear Podcast of Indeterminate Length, episode number 813. Gary, what are we talking about today?
Gaming.
Oh. Hold on.
Womp
Okay.
womp womp. And we've lost Jeff for the rest of the episode.
Yep, producer's going to be busy off doing something
Don't
else.
worry, it's not on.
I know.
Incredibly,
How
the
do you know?
producer's left.
You couldn't see the Xbox logo on.
Well, fine. I will say I would hope it wasn't on, that he wouldn't actively be playing gaming while also doing the show. But that
I've done that before.
right.
We don't talk about that.
Anywho,
No, what I thought we would do is we would just kind of come together and talk about our experiences in terms of like from our youth through today, and then potentially what we think the future might hold.
yeah.
Gaming as a convention has been around since like Egyptian times, and before then even. Like apparently there's cultural archaeological evidence of like communities of our predecessors doing things with different like items in terms of making games with random items, bones, sticks, rocks, whatever. So that's not quite what I was going to necessarily talk about, but like there's kind of these eras that we grew up within, the 70s and 80s, and then the 80s, 90s, and so on. So like there's kind of these like crossover 20-year gap or era kind of things. And I mean, my recall is that in the 70s and 80s, tabletop basement type gaming and cards was the thing. And by cards, I mean like traditional card play.
We're playing cards.
Correct. So, like poker and rummy, by yourself, possibly solitaire, war, so everything was based off of like a 52 playing card deck, basically.
Well, then Uno came around.
Right.
And other types of those type of card games where they're not collectible card games. You just get a deck and you play with that deck.
I mean, I still hearken back to that, like being a child and doing board games and card games when I play. That's like my preference. I think it's more stimulating for me personally to do things in a group dynamic that way.
Right.
I like personally games that I have to like move pieces and like that have some strategy to it, whether I'm playing in a team or against other, everyone else, so to speak. So like that's, but I kind of wonder if that heavily influences folks like in their growing up. Like what they did in their youth is like kind of the thing that they're drawn back to over and over again. So like someone who was born in the aughts is a very different kind of like gaming mentality in terms of like what they like and what they want to do. And so they would be like, okay, grandpa, you know what I mean? Like they see me talking about this stuff and they're just not.
Right. I kind of get the idea. Like you were talking about like the 80s, like 70s, 80s. And I was kind of like going, what were we like then? And my brain went back to like we growing up, like card games were the thing to do, because it was easy, like cheap. You can buy a pack of cards anywhere. You can get it, inexpensive. And then culturally, there are games that are well known and very prevalent, and um, I've known since like, probably even pre 10 years old. Like I knew how to play certain games. Um, and I like cards, and I think that's one of the things that usually comes back. But the other one was, I remember us growing up having a pool table.
Mm.
Do I play pool now? Absolutely fucking not. I'm terrible. Um,
Were you good
did I
back
play?
then?
No.
I mean,
No. No.
I don't think
Still
you're
did not.
giving yourself enough credit. I think you know how to handle a stick and some balls. I mean,
Bop,
sure.
bop, bop, but up. But up, bump. Anywho,
Hashtag truth.
but yeah, I mean, it's right here. But fact. But um, it's odd that I can remember fondly those playing those games, and pool is the one that I never really caught on, but like card games, strategy games, like Gary was talking about. Growing up, I loved board games. Um, I remember for birthdays getting board games with the intent of playing them with other people, and um, never really getting a lot of opportunities to do it because I had my siblings, and as I've talked about my family in the past, my brothers are 70 years older than me, so playing with their little brother kind of sucked. And my sister was 3 years younger than me, um, but wasn't really into games that much. So, and I had neighborhood kids, and we would do things like that all the time, often on occasion, but it was never to the extent that I wanted it to be. Um, but to me, board games and stuff like that are all about like socialization, gathering together, and it can be fun, but can also be. It's weird to for me to be so into like board games and such that I want to do it more often, but don't often get an opportunity to do it because again, it's just like most of the time, most board games, most even card games require multiple people. Even things like Cards Against Humanity nowadays, they usually rely on some level of socialization. So
yeah. No, I would agree with that. I mean, like, and in at least for me in my youth, like that culture, those aspects of like the reason why I say tabletop basement is I feel like there were board games, there were things of that nature, but they were limited. I mean, like the classics, Monopoly, Life,
mhm,
categories. Do you know what I mean? If we were really young, we played like Shoots and Ladders, things
yeah,
of that nature. And so,
and
like, but there are always a lot of homes, at least in suburbia, had like a gaming room or a basement, like that was like converted or a space or something. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah,
you were away from the rest of the family and not annoying them.
fact, yeah, yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah,
but then that kind of transitioned, into the 80s to the 90s. Arcades became a huge thing as, part of like shopping culture, the malls, all of that. And home consoles came on the market for
yeah,
retail. And I remember being friends with these two sisters whose father did very well, like financially, and they had an Atari unit.
mm,
And I played with them. I'm going to own this now. 4+ decades later, I liked playing with them because a part of me was I wanted to go play the video console game, like because they were the only people I knew that had
That's
one.
fair.
right.
And they were kind of annoyed because they, I think, started figuring out that that's what I wanted to do.
You didn't. You were like, hey, sisters. Wah, wah, wah. Good to
Well,
see
I mean,
you.
it was a lot of like, can we play such and such? But part of the issue with the Atari was that you can only play two people at a time.
True.
So with there being three of us, like we had to kind of either play off of each other. Plus, they had it at home all the time, so like they were better than me because I couldn't play it as consistently. Um, so yeah, like, but that was a big change
Oh yeah.
in terms of like the gaming advancement of the technology. I remember like having my very first personal computer, and it worked off of DOS, and so like yes, you could play games, but you had to like program it, or like you bought a game that came on like 20 floppy disks. And then like you had to put the first disc in, and then like you played up to a certain point, and then you had to take it out, and you had to put the second one in. Like so,
Yeah.
yeah, there was
Yeah.
there was some crudeness, I guess, is a way to look at it compared to where we are
Yeah.
today.
We
when it came
got.
to things.
So we got an Atari, and it had to have been. I'm pretty sure it was the first one we got. Um, the first console we got at home, and we did from.
Atari 2600.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. Did we? I know we got the. I mean, we had like 80s, 90s, like those consoles. We always got them because again, blended family, and really enough, the um, video game console in the home was a way for us to all play together. Um, um, not so much the parents, but like the kids. Um, and I'm pretty sure I know we had the Atari, and I remember Super Nintendo, but I don't remember. We must have had Nintendo, and then Sega Genesis, and then I know we got the PlayStation, but that was a little later. Yeah, but basically that era, those like consoles, we pretty much got every one. So video games was a big one for my family because we were constantly like we always got the not the it was never like the newest. I will say it that much. We never got it like the year it happened. It was always later. Um, but definitely did have them all at one point in time. I don't think we ever got the GameCube. That I don't remember us getting, but I do remember. I remember Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and PlayStation. And there has to be something between Super Nintendo and PlayStation, but I can't remember now. But anyway, um, and I remember going to arcades, especially when I was younger, um, and spending many a quarter. Not as many, but because I didn't like the arcade games. I didn't like the big consoles. I think I preferred doing it at home.
I loved the atmosphere of an arcade. I didn't care for the competitiveness sometimes of people's behavior in it.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly really looking forward to a family vacation if we had to travel in the summer and we went to a hotel, because that was kind of the era where they would have at least a arcade game, if not like two or
Right.
three.
Mm-hmm.
And easily it's like, oh, that's where you're going to find me. Like, I'm going to drain my parents' bank account dry because I'm just going to put nothing but quarters in. And you would hope and pray that you might find a hotel that had free gaming, like,
Mm,
or like did something where like there was a token machine and you could put $1 in and get like 6 or 8 tokens out. So like you got more
mhm.
than just like what a quarter was worth, so to speak. Anyways,
Right.
those
Yeah.
days are gone now.
Long gone. I think if there are any I mean I know arcades kind of made a renaissance some years back, but um I oh
I mean, Vegas has like the arcade museum or something like that where you could play a whole bunch of arcade games.
and and there are like bars now, like for nostalgia purposes, like adults that were big at that time, there are bars now that you can go to and play video games and also drink, which I think is a weird combination, but it works apparently.
It can definitely be fun. It's a part of the whole nostalgia factor of the past because like I've been to one that was like mini golf. I've been to one that's been like um that was like an arcade type situation, also like min pin bowling. Yeah, like there's a
Mhm.
lot of those kind of things from that's a big callback. Um
Mm.
and then as we move through time, like we got the 90s into the aughts, and we really took another leap in terms of like handheld um aspects of like, you could actually have the entire thing in your hand and take it with you.
Mm.
Like, yes, it might suck up a lot of batteries, but like you had that, like the portability factor was like an unknown of probably before because we were so used to being rooted or anchored. Like you had to go to
Mhm.
the arcade or you had to be in the home. You know what I mean? Like you couldn't really do something in some different places. And I think of it like the 90s into the aughts was the beginning of gaming culture. And by that, I mean, like, we actually started thinking of it in such a term. And if I remember correctly, that might have been about the time when, like, news media was covering, like, parents were concerned about what that means for, like, the development of children and their brains. And, like,
Mhm.
and fast forward another 10, 20 years, and we find out studies are showing that actually gaming helps, like, with a lot of different skill sets, teaches you, about strategy and like, interplay and a bunch of different stuff. It does not necessarily give you social skills, but yeah, like there's a lot of like gaming mechanics that can be helpful to different stuff
Right.
in that part.
Yeah. I uh so yeah, I remember the Game Boy being such a big, like I put it as one of the tags because that was the thing when it came out because it was portable and you could play a bunch of games on it and you could walk away. You could be out of the house even. And I mean if you had enough battery life. But the thing I also remember is the Tiger toy, like handhelds.
Mm-hmm.
I used to have. I think I still. Gosh. Oh shit! It is there. I didn't think I still had it. Boop. It's a Wheel of
Wow.
Oh,
Fortune,
that's
but
one of the more advanced ones.
yeah, this is a very much advanced. This is not like old. I
Not
mean, it's
not not when
old,
it
but like
originally came out. The
yeah.
tiger ones were like uh late 80s, early 90s, I think, when they first came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was usually some sort of relative knockoff of an actual popular game, but they were like
Yeah.
5, $10 or
8-bit.
something. They were
Yeah.
oh, they weren't even 8-bit. They were LCD.
Yeah. I just hit it, and it turned on. I was like, oh shit!
Well,
Wow.
so and it's funny that you held it up, David, because I was like, oh my god, I forgot about that stuff. Do you guys remember Merlin,
Oh,
the
that
handheld
sounds
like gaming thing that kind of looked like a phone way
Mhm.
back in the day? Um, there was that. There was, like, I mean, there were some rudimentary handheld games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Trying
there
to
was
talk them
what,
start playing.
baseball, football. Like there was a soccer one. Like there's a lot of sports
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember those.
things.
Like, oh, but the Tiger ones I
oh
remember
yeah.
mostly because of because I think they had. I feel like they had like a Street Fighter one,
Oh yeah,
and
there
I
was a
mean
Street
it
Fighter
was
one. I think there was a Ninja Gaiden one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pulling up memories now. Hey, there's my Wheel of Fortune. Sorry. Oh, memories. Oh,
So
that's
yeah.
right. It was an X-Men one. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh man, there's some nostalgia there. Anyway, moving right along. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, it's just that's part of what the discussion is about, but also like how gaming has changed over time, and then we get into the aughts and then into the 2010s, and I think we saw the evolution of like open worlds and kind of I call it the mainstream takeover. Like I remember thinking back to when we were younger, like if you were into gaming, like especially like back in the 70s into the 80s, you were kind of nerdy. Like
Mm.
like it was very like kind of nerd versus jock mentality. Like either you were into sports or you were into like other stuff. Um, and I feel like that kept changing and evolving over time, but then we ended up like I think around the millennium it really took a turn, surprisingly. And like as someone pointed out, like all the nerds grew up and a bunch of them were really smart and so they started businesses, you know what I mean? And it reinvested and they advanced. So like we ended up with like execs in the entertainment industry that came from a nerdy background that like were comic book readers, that were gamers, that like you know what I mean? Like all of that
Yeah.
fed into things. And so we have the success of different platforms and items. And then we also have the advancing of technology. So, YouTube comes on the scene and vastly changes the landscape. Apple and releases the iPhone. So the smartphone concept like changes things because now you have basically a computer in your pocket you take everywhere with you, and so um right. And so now you have the ability, to game nonstop, pretty much like 24/7
Mm.
in that case. Um,
So, so many time sinks, so many time wasters. I can't. Uh, I can't. Um, I think often like I play a few games on my phone, and I will. One that I've been consistently playing for years now. Um, I still play Words with Friends. If you remember Words with Friends, like I want to say a decade ago, maybe. Um, but like the games that cost. Oh, Candy Crush. That's the. I don't play it anymore, but like Candy Crush took over the world. Farmville. Oh gosh. What are some of the ones that people just kept on? I can talk about just like smartphone games.
mhm.
These are ones um, they just became so popular because they were easily accessible, easy to learn, and but again, like I was saying, time wasters. Like you can do it while you're um, riding like the bus to get to work, or um, sitting at lunch, um, on a date for some people. Uh,
Reading a
like
podcast.
it's just, yeah. Um, it's very interesting how prevalent games are because they are fun and they're meant to be like something that you find enjoyment in, but they're also in a way to pass the time in some instances. Um, and kind of going back to the sort of open worlds concept, um, weirdly enough, for me, I kind of regressed um, in regards to gaming, as my now more popular thing to do now is I play D&D. I'm the D&D. I have several games.
That's the
I know
epitome of
that you're
open
here too,
world.
Jeff.
No.
I
I'm more of
know,
that's the epitome of open world, not because I'm
but
here too, because I haven't played D&D in a while.
what I'm
But
getting at
still,
is that yes, it's an open world, but it's not an open world computer game that you're sitting on like a World of
right.
Warcraft or what is it, Baldur's Gate 3, which is connected to world. Anyway, but you know what I mean. Like the idea behind it. I said regression in that D&D has been around since the '70s, and it became very popular in again in the late 2000s. Um, and kind of to Jeff or not Jeff to Gary's point, like there were a lot of like nerds back in the day that grew up and became like super famous And then we find out, oh, we love, D&D and we played it all the time. There's super fucking sexy people that were playing D&D, and it just became this like it was almost cool to be a D&D nerd.
Mhm.
Whereas when we were growing up in the 80s and 90s, no. Um, if you play D&D, like my first ish encounter with D&D was when I was doing um, quick recall trivia with my school. Like I was on the team, and it was sort of a big, it was a big nerd convention. It was a bunch of us, schools competing against each other, playing, like taking tests and playing quick recall and like answering questions. And when there were downtimes, one of the memory that pops in my head is it was a downtime. It was like a lunch period, and I'm walking through like the area where people are sort of gathered, and there's a bunch of people around a person, and they've got D&D books and I think even a map, and it was just very like, wow, that's a lot. I knew what it was, but I was like, I'm I'm a nerd, but I'm not that nerdy. Like
Mm.
that was that was that was my like feeling at the time. Now I love D&D. I literally play D&D 2 or 3 times a week sometimes. I love D&D enough that I'm literally in 2 campaigns that play in the middle until the middle of the night. So like that's very interesting to me that it kind of changed and took this upswing into popularity where again 30, 40 years ago, even more so, it wouldn't have been like it wasn't the case.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one of the interesting things is that, like, role playing games, D&D has been around for decades, so long. I didn't get into that until I was a freshman in college.
Mhm.
It was also partially part of why I almost flunked out of college. Well, because I found it way more entertaining than I did going to school or going to class. So there's that. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, like it's interesting to me, how that culture has come about and how many things have advanced. I mean, hell, like, Stranger Things just wrapped its whole series and is based on some principles and concepts within D&D, and that had its own D&D version that got released. Like,
Mhm.
so it's like kind of a weird, like, snake eating its tail thing,
Yeah,
kind of in a way.
it
So
feels it feels weird that it's gained so much in popularity, but also it weirdly makes sense.
right. Well, and so, that's to me, that's part of that mainstream takeover aspect that, it's very, very part of the culture now. And then I think we have this other thing that came about because we are in 2026. So happy second half of the current decade, folks. So, in the 20s, this thing, virtual reality or augmented reality, kind of comes on the scene. Um, so you've got the Oculus headset, and the different styles of things that have come about. Um, and I find that interesting. I don't think it's had the hit that people in technology thought it would. I think they really felt that like it was just going to change everything. And I'm like, I think there's
Right.
a point where the mass of the population is just not going to get on board with it. That like whatever the thing is, they're just going to be like we weren't asking for that, we weren't looking for that, so that's not the thing for them. I mean, we're part of the generation that some of us still to this day are asking, where's the flying cars? Like we grew up at a time where we were like, oh my god, the Jetsons is going to be so cool when it happens for us. Like we're going to, fly around in a car and have a home robot that's like going to take care of all our stuff, and we still don't really have that by any
Nope.
means in some areas. So
Well, I more
like
think
so
about the DeLorean and Back to the Future, but that's just me.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, like, I think the technology of virtual reality was not something that people were looking forward to. So that's why I think, for me, that's a reason why some people really aren't interested in that aspect. Plus, we haven't advanced it enough. One, that commercially it's available to a lot of the population, and two, I think it isn't quite giving what people want or desire or unfortunately like grow an addiction to. Yeah. Give it time. I'm
Yeah.
sure it will happen.
Yeah, that's fair. I've thought about getting the Meta like so many times for the past like 3-4 years that it's been around, and then every time I think about it, I go,
No.
it's just a lot of money. It's a lot of money
Also, it's
for
by Meta.
well that too, but the big thing for me is just that it's a lot of money for something that I'm not as big into, like
It's way
gaming
too.
consoles and video
Yeah.
games than I originally was. It's not my thing that I'm drawn to.
It's also very
So
much a novelty, in my humble opinion. It's VR right now is still novelty. It's not everyday average Joe sort of thing.
sorry.
I mean,
I mean, I think that
big gaming is going to be like the actual uh, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch. That's the
Mhm.
current state of everything right now. Switch is basically Nintendo's been basically the portable powerhouse since the Game Boy. They were the first
True.
into it, and they kept innovating until they eventually were like, "Screw it, we're not doing traditional consoles anymore. We're just going to do a portable device, that's compatible to hook up to your TV."
Right. Mm.
yeah, I mean, and I don't disagree with that. And that's what I guess my question is, what do we think's next on the horizon? Like, what do we think the evolution is into the future in terms of gaming? Um, my imagination says I would love to be able to see technology merge with tabletop so that you can see the things that are occurring in some fashion.
Mm.
So, like, I love seeing that people have gotten creative and made 3D printed like villages and like
Mm.
environments
Mm.
and characters and props and like that kind of stuff. But I would love if we could take that further, and I guess with that virtual reality concept, like have a three-dimensional space that's the middle of like things that are being played, but then you can see the things actually play out
In other words, you want a
Mm.
in a way,
holodeck.
kind of. But I want physical things that are really there with like superimposed. I mean, it is augmented reality technically, like that show the stuff. So like if there's a battle or whatever, like you can actually see the things play out.
Uh-huh.
And
Right,
I
a
realize that some
holodeck.
people may criticize. I think some people would criticize that and say, "Well, I don't want to be in it. I just want to view it." Like you know.
Yeah.
But I think some people would criticize that and be like, "Oh, well, then that takes away from human imagination." To be like, I would like that all of us see the same thing, as opposed to all of us imagining it and maybe not quite imagining the same thing.
Right.
Um, but that takes a ton of like computing power and capacity and like a bunch of stuff to be able
Yeah.
to make that. Um,
There's some things sort of happening, especially with like VR. I was watching. It was actually there's the thing in Vegas. There's an Area 51 or Area 15 or something it's called, where you actually put on this headset and you become a character, and you're going through this space um, spaceship. It's like a future, like it's telling a future of something like very far in the future, and Earth is destroyed, and we're going to this new thing, and then um, you interact with the world, but it's still VR. You're still like holding a headset, but there are some physicalities to it in
Mhm.
that you're kind of walking around in a space with, I'm assuming, other people, but not like a whole bunch of people, so you don't like really crash into each other the whole time. But it from the looks of it, I haven't been there yet, but from the looks of it, it feels kind of similar to what you're talking about, except it's not a world that you are building or a
Mhm.
DM is building. It is a predetermined open space, open world in a way where you can explore, but it's obviously within a confine of a certain thing. So I'm gonna find what that is. But it was very interesting. I was if I'd had more time with my last trip to Vegas, I genuinely thought about going there. Area 15. That's what I thought it was. Go ahead.
I also kind of wonder about like next level in life gaming. So like I didn't put it into the document, but like escape rooms really kind
Mm,
of came about, this concept of like working together towards the finding the solution to the puzzle or whatever, but like you needed to get out of the space or move into the next thing. um and I kind of wonder about like what the advancements in that arena can be like is there a crossover between that and Damien, I'm gonna need to rely on you with there's a certain kind of theater. There's one in New York. There might have been one in LA where it's immersive, and I can't remember the name of the style of it, but like everywhere you go in a multi-room, multi-layer space, like
oh,
floors, is a live production. Everybody's a character, and like you're going through the experience, and like your experience is unique to you because like you're not everywhere at the same time. Do you know
right.
what I mean?
I know what you mean, but I can't remember what it was called. I mean, immersive theater is a way to like generalize it, but yeah, I've seen
Um,
the. I hear. I'm hearing what you're saying, and it's sounding very familiar.
yeah,
But
Sleep
yeah,
No More was like I think one of the originals that like really made a splash in that particular area. Um, but anyways, my thought is, what if you mashed that together with an escape room concept? Do you know what I mean? So like you went
mhm.
in as a group or a pod or whatever, and then went through it, but it is more gaming than it is theater, but it's a blend of both.
Mm, yeah, very
Like,
interesting.
Basically, instead of
because like
programmed NPCs, you would have real life people as NPCs.
yes, like it's real. It's it's gonna sound so bad. I'm like it's kind of like Ren Fair, but game. And but I mean there's all sorts of different genres obviously, but like you would be in a real thing with real people and real everything. It just is like you're actually doing something in the midst of that, whether it's murder mystery or adventure treasure hunt, or you know what I mean, like something
Yeah.
that takes you to a certain um aspect of things. And I guess this is the closest we can do without having a holodeck in theory. Um,
Yeah.
from that
Mm.
from that aspect of things. Like, I mean, obviously, at some point in the future, we kind of joke about putting computer chips in our heads and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, that would be one way for all of us to be interconnected to have the exact same experience. So if you're actually gaming with other folks, that you would literally be seeing and doing everything that everybody else is in the exact moment, which I guess the closest to that is like uh, a multiplayer game platform with virtual reality goggles on it, which I guess is technically totally possible now. I haven't personally seen it, but
Yeah.
that would be a thing. I don't know. I think there's some advancements, but I'm also realizing for my age, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do all. Like, I just, the fact that I'm in awe of people, especially it's mostly younger people who like play these games and they like know all this stuff, and they're like, to me, there's like thousands of pieces of data because they're like, they have an inventory and all of this is about their health and this is about their skill levels and this is about like, their all these different aspects of things. Plus, then you've got environment and enemies and like, compatriots and like who's your friends versus foes and all this stuff. And I'm just like, I don't know if I can handle all that in my head.
Mm.
But then again, I realized that like I'm much more of a puzzle person. Like I like to do things to feel that I'm like being stimulated in a way without maybe going through a storyline.
Mm.
But there's also
You know,
some amazing games that are out there right now that have amazing storylines. So like it is interesting to see other people play them or have them like learn about them through other folks.
yeah,
So,
yeah, it's weird to like, because one of the things that some people often have an issue, and this is talking kind of D&D in a way, is like railroad versus like open concept or sandbox. That's I think the two different concepts. Railroad is like you're on these tracks, you're going from here to here. There's no like veering off. It's all like one way.
Basically, a
And
playable written story.
right. And then sandbox is here's all the things. You can go wherever you want. And I appreciate the idea of both. I am personally a little bit of a fan of more railroad because obviously there's an experience that's meant to happen, and that's the whole reason why we're doing what we're doing. But I also can respect that some people want to explore other ways and places. But if we veer too far off track, we need somebody or something to bring us back in a way. And got one of the games I in, I love it to death. But like, wow, they all of them except for me were like, we want to. It was put in session zero, so we all agreed to it. But the idea was that there would be opportunities to explore areas as we travel along towards a certain goal. And me, I'm like, I just want to get to the goal. Like, let's just do that. But pretty much everyone else at the table was like, we want to like have the opportunities to do random things that may encounter. Like, okay, cool. And what's funny is one of the things that we did very first early in the game when we had no idea of everything that was going on in the world has had essentially cursed us for a good majority of the first weeks of the game. And it's like, told you, like we wouldn't have been in this situation if we hadn't like found the thing while we were exploring and moved on. But that's just me being and I told you so, bitch. Um, but I do appreciate it helps build character and learn your abilities and do all of the different things that you feel like you can do, and there could be related to stories that you character stuff, so it makes sense. But it was like, oh, it can be a downright a, a, annoying. But we also know that there's a larger overarching goal for us, and we're not close to it, but like it's great to know that that's there. So
yeah, no, I think that's fair.
mm.
Do we think that there will be any changes in terms of like the social aspects with gaming? Like, I feel like in the aughts through now, we've had a lot. We sort of saw, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, a resurgence in like in-person gaming leading up to 2020, that like people were gathering and having game nights and doing stuff together, whether it be traditional games or newer games. Um, and the reason I ask is I feel like we pivoted hard during, the global pandemic to doing what we could. So a lot of it was like distanced stuff, online kind of things. And, the world eventually tried to resume back to its previous nature.
I feel like you didn't complete your question there.
Both of you were just kind of like, and I was like, what? Did I not like? So I wonder, do we think things are going to kind of continue the way they are now on these two paths, like the virtual online Twitch streaming, you know what I mean? Like video gaming aspect of things, as well as the in-person stuff? Or do we think that like there will be more growth in one or the other? That people will find that they'll want to do more stuff in person versus not doing stuff in person.
Yes.
Great.
I think you're saying is the world going to just do one way or just do the other? But I think it will always be a mix. It will always be a mix, and it's going to depend on the people who want to do what they want and having the options to go one way or the other or both, for that matter, is what's going to keep both things going. And it will be this like probably some sort of pendulum swing where at one point more people are playing in person, but then they're like, oh, less people doing that and more people doing it virtually. There's just somewhere it's just like I've been playing a lot of Monster Hunter. With Monster Hunter, only one player can play at a time on a specific device. So if you want multiple people, you need to either go the old LAN party route, where a whole bunch of people bring their consoles and computers and equipment into one place and everybody gets on the same internet connection, which is probably a bad idea, and connect to the server and play. Or and then there's just going to be some people who just don't like that sort of gameplay and prefer like actual in-person either tabletop RPGs, physical collectible card games, etc. Or like they all get together and play some Jackbox at home because everybody just uses their phones as the controller.
Right. I foresee more virtual than real. I think the pandemic changed a lot. I think we got very much invested in doing things virtually to the point where social interactions are fine, but they're fewer and far between. One of the things that made me think about this is I was on an app called Meetup. That's how during the pandemic I got back into in-person gaming at the um, comic store, bookstore up the street from us. And they had a meetup group, and we joined it, and that's when we got all of the like events that were happening, and they were all every week. And there was always every weekend there was something going on, and it was always great and wonderful. Well, in the past year or so, several of the groups that I was a part of have like fallen out because people are either things have already been set up and there's no longer need for this constant meetup, or um, the groups have decided to just fizzle out. And one of them in particular was connected to another store, and it sort of just fizzled out either because they didn't want to pay the fee to like keep this going, or they no longer have enough interest, which I think is lack of interest. But I now like I go through. I'm speaking from personal experience. I play in 3 in-person games now, and 2 digital games, and I have the potential, if I really wanted to, if I had the time, I could potentially be
Mhm.
in 2 other digital, like virtual groups, if I wanted to be playing online. Um, and I could see it being a thing where that sort of is the like kind of the just point where people will make the decision. They'll make the personal choice on what they want to do. But I do think being more virtual is the future because more so now than ever, it's more accessible. We literally have handheld devices that can connect to the internet in our in our possession. Most people do in some way, shape, or form, and it's much easier to jump into a game and do something virtually than it is to like let's set up a time for where we can all meet up and then let's figure out our schedules and make something work. Yeah,
That's fair. I mean, I don't really have any idea what the future holds. Like in terms of gaming, I've been very much a observer as opposed to like a person involved and or playing.
hmm
So I'll be interested to see where things go, and what happens. But I don't necessarily have a feeling one way or another what the outcome will be.
You'll always
yeah,
have people who want to play in person. It's always going to happen. And
I agree.
because a lot of people still crave physical social interaction. It's going to happen. And what do you do when you get together? Well, play a game. Maybe it's cars. Maybe it's a board game. Maybe it's TTRPG, something. And then the digital landscape makes a lot of those same things accessible for those people who can't necessarily get together or can't find a group locally to get together. So it's gonna be. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be variable. There's gonna be swings here and there, and it's just gonna depend on the atmosphere at the time
Fair. I mean,
and the people.
I feel like I feel like people will be drawn to like finding themselves in their tribes, and the technology can definitely be a piece of that. I am hopeful that it will be a good one or a positive one.
Right.
There we are. We've said it. What do you think? I think this is the end. Oh. What do you think? How do you think that the future in gaming experiences is coming around? Plain ways to let us know by popping over to our blog at cubsoutloud.com. Shoot us an email, cubsoutloud@gmail.com. Leave us a voicemail at 361-COL-Talk. That's 361-265-8255. Follow us on Blue Sky, Facebook, Tumblr, and YouTube at Cubs Out Loud, the appropriate place to URL. Join our entourage chat on Telegram at bit.ly/telegram-COL. You can also find out when we're recording these shows by checking out our Google Calendar at bit.ly/calendar-COL. Get various accoutrements, such as a mug, various shirts. Right now, we got whatever the Cub says and whatever the Bear says. I actually don't have one of those. That's beside the point. You can find that at zazzle.com/cubsoutloud. Some of those designs were designed by Smashy. You can find more of his work at tpublic.com/user/Smashy the Bear. You can become a patron at patreon.com/cubsoutloud or send us a donation at paypal.me/cubsoutloud. You can find us on the various podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify. You can find me on the internet as Box Cub. I'm also the writer of Match on AO3. One of the various matches. If you want the link, just go to Blue Sky or my profile in Blue Sky or X, and there will be a link there. I've got 8 chapters posted right now. Damon?
Yes.
If you wish to get in touch with me, you can find me as TheaterCub79. That's TheaterCub79 on most of their related sites. Something. I think follower. Anyway, I was thinking it was Facebook, but I'm like, no, I changed that. Anyway, or you can find me as Pup Armor 79 on Blue Sky. That Blue Sky is not safe for work. For safe for work stuff, you want DMA Gamer 79, Blue Sky or TikTok. And I actually realized you can find me on Facebook as Pup Armor 79, and that will definitely be safe for work because that is Facebook. Gary.
If you would like to get in touch with me, you can pretty much find me anywhere online as GareBear73. If you want to know what I'm interested in when it comes to the adult naughty stuff, go to Blue Sky, GareBear73XXX.
Remember that? Say good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good one, y'all.
Happy gaming.